Hey everyone, guess what? I think Caleb Williams may have just given away the Chicago Bears draft plans. And the player he seems to have his eyes on is a wide receiver prospect who turned heads at the NFL Combine. This guy ran an incredible 4.3-second 40-yard dash, which is already impressive. But what makes it even crazier, he's 6'5" and 205 pounds. That's right, I'm talking about Tennessee Volunteers wide receiver Dante Thornton Jr. Now let's take a step back. Does this remind anyone of what happened before last year's draft? With a new head coach in Ben Johnson, a revamped roster, and a full offseason ahead, the Bears are focused on giving Caleb Williams all the weapons he needs to reach his full potential. And if his social media activity tells us anything, it looks like he's already picked a receiver he wants Chicago to draft in 2025. This is something we need to pay attention to. Remember how Instagram activity hinted at Rome Odunze going number 9 last year? Or how Justin Fields unfollowed the Bears right before his trade to Pittsburgh? These things matter. So what did Caleb Williams just do? He shared a clip of Dante Thornton Jr.'s blazing 40-yard dash at the Combine. Now, I'll be honest, Thornton wasn't fully on my radar before this, but after seeing his speed, size, and potential, it's hard to ignore him. Before you jump to conclusions, I'm not saying the Bears should draft a wide receiver in the early rounds, so relax. But think about it. Why spend big money on a veteran receiver just to be WR3 when you could take a promising young player for a much cheaper price? Early projections have Thornton going somewhere between the 4th and 6th rounds, meaning the Bears could grab him without using major draft capital. And if Caleb is already a fan, that's something worth considering. Beyond his athletic ability, there's something else I love about Thornton. His attitude and growth over the years. That's what really puts him in the conversation for me. But before we dive into that, let's talk about Ben Johnson and what he looks for in a WR3. What does Johnson want in a receiver? Crazy big, crazy fast, crazy athletic. And guess what? Thornton checks all those boxes. He actually reminds me of Jameson Williams in Detroit, but without the off-field drama or suspensions. Sure, Jamo was more productive in college, but their skill sets are eerily similar. Now imagine this. DJ Moore and Rome Odunze carving up defenses while Thornton stretches the field with his elite speed. Add in Cole Kmet as a reliable target, and suddenly, defenses are in a nightmare situation. Who do you even cover? Of course, the Bears must fix the offensive line. That's non-negotiable. Caleb Williams got sacked 68 times last year, and if that happens again, nothing else will matter. But let's also be real about something. Keenan Allen, our current WR3, is nearing the end of his career. If the Bears can replace him with a young, talented, and under-the-radar player like Thornton Jr., it could be a brilliant move by GM Ryan Poles. And financially, it just makes sense. So should we be paying attention to Caleb Williams' social media hints? Absolutely. Because when your future franchise QB has a favorite target, it's worth considering. Caleb Williams may have dropped a subtle hint with his social media post, but he's not the only one impressed by Tennessee Volunteers wide receiver Dante Thornton Jr. Even before the NFL Combine, people knew this guy was fast. He led Tennessee with 661 receiving yards and 6 touchdown catches, proving he's more than just a one-time standout. And then at the Combine, he confirmed what many suspected. He's an absolute burner. At 6'5" and 205 pounds, Thornton ran one of the fastest 40-yard dashes, clocking in at 4.3 seconds. That was the third fastest time, trailing only Xavier Worthy and Matthew Golden. And in the NFL, speed kills, something Caleb Williams knows very well. If the Bears want to add a true deep threat to their offense, Thornton could be the perfect pick. But what makes him special isn't just his physical tools. Those are obvious. It's his growth and mindset that really stand out. Thornton started his college career at Oregon before transferring to Tennessee. And that move wasn't just about football, it was about changing his mentality. He realized that the way he was approaching the game wasn't working, so he made a conscious effort to evolve. In his own words, Thornton admitted, "My first year, I was more personally driven. I wanted to achieve all my individual goals. And when I didn't, it affected me in a really negative way. He credits a meeting with his positional coach, Kelsey Pope, for shifting his perspective. Instead of putting too much pressure on himself, he learned to relax and refocus on the love of the game. I realized I needed to make it more team-oriented. That way, I could help my teammates reach their goals, and they could help me reach mine. That kind of maturity is exactly what you want in a player. It's not just about talent, it's about mindset and adaptability. And if the Bears are looking for a young receiver who is physically gifted and mentally tough, Dante Thornton Jr. could be an incredible addition to this team. Thornton's story is about more than just talent. It's about a complete mentality shift. His season-by-season stats might not jump off the page at first, but when you dig deeper, you see a player who fought through challenges and came out stronger. At first glance, his numbers might not impress. In 2022, he put up 366 yards, but in 2023, that number dropped to just 224 yards. This dip wasn't due to a lack of ability. It was the result of adjusting to a new system after transferring from Oregon to Tennessee. On top of that, he suffered a season-ending injury, which only made things tougher. But in 2024, we saw a major improvement. When asked by the media on Friday about how he turned things around, Thornton credited it to a mindset shift. He focused on 3 key goals. 1. Winning. 2. Being the best teammate possible. 3. Taking advantage of every opportunity. That kind of attitude makes him a player worth watching. It's clear that Caleb Williams is already excited about him, and honestly, I am too. Instead of spending big money on a high-priced free agent to be WR3, why not draft a young, talented receiver who's already caught the attention of our franchise quarterback? The Bears have $80 million in cap space, but that doesn't mean they should spend recklessly. Now, the only free agent I'd consider bringing in at WR3 is Nick Westbrook-Ikhine from Tennessee. If you've been following, I did a video on him recently. He could be a great addition, but when it comes down to it, why not save the money? Why not draft a guy like Dante Thornton Jr., who already has chemistry with Caleb Williams and could develop into a true weapon in this offense? It's a smart move financially, and more importantly, it's a move that could pay off big time in the long run. Dante Thornton Jr. isn't just a developmental prospect. He already has the elite speed needed to stretch the field. That would allow Rome Odunze and DJ Moore to dominate underneath while keeping defenses on their heels. And the best part? He's projected to go in the 4th to 6th round, meaning the Bears wouldn't have to use valuable early draft capital to get him. This makes even more sense when you consider the team's other needs. The Bears must address the offensive line, and I can absolutely see them grabbing a center like Jackson Powers-Johnson or Cedric Van Pran in the draft. They could also pick up a guard in free agency. That's the bare minimum they need to do. A few names stand out in free agency. I really like Mekhi Becton, who just won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. Another intriguing option is Will Freese, a player gaining momentum as a potential plug-and-play guard for Chicago. Before his injury last season, Freese was actually outperforming Trey Smith in key metrics, according to PFF. The big question is whether he has fully recovered from that leg injury, something the Bears' medical staff will need to evaluate. On the defensive side, edge rusher is another major priority. One name to watch is Trey Hendrickson from Cincinnati. He's available for trade, and with the Bengals needing to invest heavily in their offense, it's unlikely they'll pay all 3 of their top defensive linemen. Cincinnati is already preparing to commit a massive amount of money, around $70 million total, to keep T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Higgins is expected to demand $30 million per year, while Chase could set a new NFL record for wide receiver contracts, possibly exceeding $40 million annually to surpass Justin Jefferson's recent deal with Minnesota. With all these moving pieces, the Bears have big decisions to make, and adding a player like Thornton Jr. in the later rounds could be a steal, allowing them to focus their early draft picks and free agency spending on the trenches. There are a lot of moving parts when it comes to building this roster, but one thing is clear. If the Bears can solidify the defensive line and add 2 key offensive linemen, it will give them the freedom to take the best player available with their first-round pick. And if that player happens to be Austin Gentry, who some are comparing to Barry Sanders, why not take him at number 10? If the Bears handle their offensive line needs in free agency, they can use their 2 early second-round picks to strengthen the trenches. This year's draft is deep at offensive line, so there isn't a huge gap in talent between mid-first-round prospects and early third-round prospects. That gives the Bears some flexibility to find value later without reaching too early. They can also bring in veteran linemen to add experience and stability. Now, I'm not saying the Bears must draft Gentry, but the key here is having the flexibility to take the best talent on the board, whoever that may be. That's how you elevate the entire roster and build a team that can compete at the highest level. What do you guys think? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Looking forward to hearing your takes. Bear down. We'll talk soon.